This is Inside the Game, where passion meets precision. Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale are your hosts, breaking down every goal, every controversy, every match that matters. From the heart of American soccer to the global stage. No fluff, just football. Weekdays at 9 a.m. live on YouTube, Roku TV, Facebook, Twitter, and all listening platforms.
Welcome to Inside the Game on the National Soccer Network. Now, here are your hosts, Jonathan Turner, Nathan Wangler, and John Natale.
Is Nike carrying its weight? One food, one album, one movie. USA FIFA World Cup, the Gold Cup, and so much more here on the 104th edition of Inside the Game. Alongside my partner, Nathan Wangler, I'm John Natale. A pleasant morning, everybody. And we get ready to dive into the topics of soccer all across the globe, but especially focusing on what's happening now here stateside within a lot of realms. Nate was thinking about something last night, man. I went off the curb a little bit with the diet. Everybody knows I had stomach surgery back in March, so that has limited my intake of food. But I just went at it, man. I couldn't handle it anymore. I nullified all doctors' restrictions or whatever. So I went to Chick-fil-A, got spicy chicken, no pickle. Had to do it. Regretted it. My stomach was like, you idiot. And so we did that. But it got me to thinking. We always talk about the hypotheticals and what would happen if situations. And it got me to thinking, if I was stuck on a desert island and I could only eat one food. And then that turned into, well, I have to always watch TV when I'm eating. So it turned into one movie. And then I'm like, well, when I'm done, I got to chill out. So what album would I listen to? So I thought it might be a good idea this morning to break that out to you. You're stuck on a desert island. Old Nathan Wangler just got ship side. The Titanic 2 sinks. They actually made a Titanic 2. Can you believe that? That's another discussion to have. The boat.
I didn't even know this.
Twice. Yes, the boat sank twice.
Came back. All right.
Yes. But you're on an island, nothing you can do. Okay, so you have electricity, so you can have a movie and you can listen to one album and have one food the rest of your life. The stipulation on the food, though, my friend, is that you can't say hamburgers. Be like, well, I want a hamburger with bacon and onion straws, but the next day I think I'm going to put avocado on. Nuh-uh. It's one and done. You have one type. Like if you say chicken Alfredo, then that's it. It's chicken with Alfredo and pasta the rest of your life. You can't change it to red sauce. You can't change it to steak or anything like that. So we'll start off with food.
I'm going with red meat. I'm going with steak. Number one, I think, well, so it's interesting. Some people only eat red meat, and it's what, that carnivore diet or whatever. I've heard stuff about it before. Now I don't know if all the specifics they go into it, and not that I would necessarily need to diet if I was on a deserted island, because I wouldn't be eating any of the bad stuff anyways. So yeah, I mean, there's really, like, it's gonna fall off one way or the other. I'm probably going with some sort of red meat. My guess is steak would probably be what I would lean into there. Some sort of seasoning on that steak, if that's possible. Now, again, with the stipulations of it only being one food, you can only doctor it up with so much before it becomes, more like a meal. Like, you can't bring multiple ingredients with you, right?
No,
like,
I mean, if you're gonna put a seasoning on it, you would have that seasoning every day on that particular steak.
Right, and I'm gonna have to make it on a fire, I'm assuming, or figure out a way.
No, I mean, we'll figure it out. It'll get done. I got
a Foreman grill out there.
I guess, yeah, because I mean, you got a TV to watch some movies, so sure, you got an extra.
Fair. Okay.
You got a power strip. I got
a nice little setup out here. Then, all right, capsized, but we're able to save the stuff. All right,
that's right. Somehow the electronics didn't go underneath. Everybody else died, but the electronics survived.
Yep. So I'm probably going to go with some sort of steak or red meat. Will I get sick of it? Inevitably, yes. There's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff you could do with that, So I'll roll with steak on this one.
You got a certain cut on that steak?
Oh, fattier the better. I would say, but flank is pretty good. Flank is really good because flank is easy to make. So it's easy to make. It's quick. I like it medium to medium rare. Big fan. So that takes about all of 5 seconds. So wouldn't take a whole lot of energy.
You have all the time in the world. I mean, you get if you
That's
want
true.
something a little bit more than
That's
I
true.
mean, I hope you're going to say steak 'em or something like that.
A Wagyu? No, not quite. Sirloin would be good. Maybe a Delmonico cut would be pretty all right. But yeah, something along those lines. Flank has a lot of really good like fat content, so that means it typically it's really good in that way. A lot of people don't think of it that way. I'm a red meat snob, man. I was a butcher before I came over here to join Inside the Game. At least that was the day job. So yeah, I'll roll with steak on this one.
Okay. All right. Now, as you're eating that steak, you got to pop in a movie. There he is.
Back, Peter. Welcome back,
my friend.
It's been a minute. Also, Michael too hopping in.
Hey, Michael.
No more corn dogs. I just don't know if I would want to roll with corn dogs as my only food. I can sprinkle a good corn dog in every now and again, but if it's the only thing I'm going with every time, that's a problem.
So give me your movie.
Ooh, one movie.
One.
Man, you're
probably judge.
This is corny. You're probably a Will Smith movie. I was thinking Pursuit of Happiness. It's a great movie. But now I'm more leaning towards Will Smith. I Am Legend. I love that movie.
Can't watch it. I can't watch it, but I know it's a good movie.
You can't watch it? Why?
I can't handle the dog scene.
Guys?
Can't handle it. Can't handle it. I know you don't
see
see it, but I know it happens, and I can't.
I knew it.
Can't do it. Just like I won't watch John Wick. Will not do it.
Last time I did, I watched it with someone who hadn't seen it before, and it was the first thing they said to me.
Oh.
They're like, "Does the dog die?" And I wanted to give him a heads up, but you can't really do that because then you spoil what's going to happen. You spoil what's going to happen. You spoil the storyline. But yes, tough scene. But
good movie though. It is a
good movie. I will say. Album. You know what? I'm probably rolling with the Red Hot Chili Peppers here, but I'm blanking on the name of the actual album.
Californication?
Yes, there we go. Yes. Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I was kind of going back and forth because I'm a big fan of them. I also like Green Day too. I listen to them quite a bit, but they got a few different ones that I feel like would be good options.
Green Day's on Beat Saber.
Yeah.
It's a good play. It's a good play.
What I'm saying. So it would be between one of those, but I have a certain affinity to the Red Hot Chili Peppers because Anthony Kiedis is actually from Grand Rapids, Michigan, or Lowell, I guess, technically. So just outside of GR. So I've always been impartial to the Michigan guys, but they've always had a good sound, man. And I feel like that sound for being stranded on a deserted island would be good. It would almost kind of fit the vibe a little bit, if you will. So Red Hot Chili Peppers, Steak, and I Am Legend. Will Smith. It is. Early Will Smith was his best work. I'll give him that.
Okay. Well done.
So now I got to hear from your perspective. But Peter's dropping in.
Movie Shawshank. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a solid pick.
That would be a good
solid pick.
Fried chicken.
Okay.
There's always hope. One thing, no one could take that away from you. I just got to figure out how to get back to civil. Well, even if I want to come.
No, you're not. There's no way. There's no way. It's
so I'm just chilling out here forever and ever.
Nothing.
All right.
Yeah, you're done.
Steak is gonna suck after a while.
Annie Ann's pretzel bites. That's the food. And I'm not going to complain about, well, if I eat bread listen, I'm on a stranded island. There's nothing I can do.
Right.
So it doesn't matter. If I puke, I can puke in the ocean. I'm fine.
There you go.
Movie. This was a tough one because I was struggling between 4, but at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Major League.
Okay.
And album was tough. I don't know if you're familiar with the band King's X, they're out of Dallas, Texas. Saw them when I was 11 years old on Headbangers Ball on MTV many moon ago. And there was a video over my head. And that was 1989. And I
Okay.
fell in love with that song and have liked them ever since. There's a compilation. It's called In the New Age. It's a compilation of their first 4 albums, which are just, to me, some of the best music they've ever done. And I'd roll with that. So King's X, Major League, and Annie Ann's Pretzel Bites.
That's a
Light
deep
salt.
cut.
Light salt.
Light sauce.
Just
You got like dipping sauce with this at all or anything?
no,
Or
no, we'll go straight. We'll go
Just
straight. I mean,
just bread,
yeah.
bread and
just
not
the bread,
bread,
the butter,
dough.
and the bread, the butter, and the salt. We're good.
Hey man, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's a good choice. I just like either way, we're going to get absolutely sick of whatever it is that we have.
100%.
But for the first little bit, it's going to be pretty nice.
yeah,
I'm just
I
saying,
mean,
it's going to be pretty nice.
it is what it is. And let's just pray to our holy souls that never happens, that we're never put in that situation. But it's always fun to talk about. So, Nate, I need to ask you something. We've been talking about this Club Cup, and we've been talking about this Gold Cup, and we've been talking about USA Soccer a lot. And I think it's worth talking about because it's what's going on soil right now and all that good stuff. But we had a discussion yesterday, and it was actually you brought up the topic of the day, and it was Adidas or Nike. And this really got me juiced. You know I'm an Adidas guy. And props to Juventus for 5-0 yesterday over Al Ain, from Abu Dhabi club. But Juventus smoked them 5-0, so it's victory Thursday. It's like Tiger on Sundays. He wears red. I wear Juventus on Thursday. But it got me to thinking about what Adidas does for the sport. You'd made a great point that Adidas looks unnatural on football uniforms, which it does. You went through that Michigan era with Rich Rod and then Brady Hoke, and Indiana is an Adidas school, doesn't look right. Washington's an Adidas school, doesn't look right. Wisconsin, it doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel like football. But then I looked at Adidas with soccer, and I was looking at past World Cup winners, and I was thinking of club teams that are the most popular in the world, or some of the most popular club teams in the world. And then I looked at the MLS, which is Adidas sponsored. And I looked at types of shoes. And Adidas literally makes shoes for club teams. There's an Italy shoe who has won a World Cup. There is an Argentina shoe, which has won a World Cup. There's a Germany shoe, which has won a World Cup. There's club shoes like Manchester. Juventus has 2, actually. There's Arsenal. There is Bayern Munich. There's Real Madrid. For the MLS, they have the Messi Samba. They have the Inter Miami Gazelle. And you, as a Nike guy, somewhat more, not in the shoe front. We agreed on Ultra Boost yesterday. It's wise choice, my friend. Wise choice. But, Nate, I asked you the question. Name me the Nike shoe that is specifically for USA Soccer and/or USA Soccer player.
The specific shoe that's most worn, or that
that promotes USA Soccer, and that is a LeBron, Kobe's, Jordan's. Who's that last name for soccer that you say, oh, that's the Nike? He's got his own Nikes.
I don't think there is one in terms of American born. Is there one? I mean, is this
any Nike
question
shoe of any soccer player around the world? Big sponsors, World Cup winners of Nike that have worn Nike: Brazil,
right?
England, France. But name a Nike shoe after any player on any of those teams and/or the country itself.
It's in terms of national teams, I'm not sure. I mean, I know they have FC Barcelona. I know they have Liverpool FC.
But do they have a shoe?
Like a specific shoe?
Specific shoe.
I don't know.
I can go into my closet right now and grab pairs of Manchester United Adidas, Juventus Adidas. I can grab Team Italy or Adidas, Real Madrid Adidas, but name me one Nike shoe that supports any of the countries and/or players and/or clubs that they represent that's specific to that team.
I don't know if there is, to be completely honest with you.
There's
Yeah,
not.
I don't know.
There's not. And why is that? Especially the United States. Because they don't have to. USA Soccer comes along every 4 years. So you don't have to worry about it from 2027 through 2029 after next year and up until 2030. They don't have to spend any money on it. And they don't. They slap their swoosh on there and that's it.
Yeah.
You look at Adidas uniforms and like this is Juventus. So you have the 3 stripes here, but you have the 3 stripes on the shoulders. And then there's representation on the bottom to show that it's in more Adidas. Nike, what do? They put the swoosh on the chest and that's it. The majority of the uniforms are the team sponsor and or a design like a crest or something from the team itself. But all it is a swoosh. They pay no attention to it.
Can I be honest?
You think that's kind of an abomination? Well, hold on. That a company, the largest branded sports company in the world, doesn't take more of an affinity to the team that it should represent, and that's here in the United States, that you should see that to build up excitement for events like next year with the World Cup? Before you answer that, make your point. I want to hear what you have to say.
I do like the basicness of it though. I do like it. I think at least those uniforms that the United States has, and I get it, and they have a 10-year partnership with American soccer, and it's not just the national team, it's really club teams, it's everyone from the top down to the bottom here in the United States. And the one thing I'll say is, yeah, maybe you have a point. Maybe you have a point there. And obviously Nike is not as into the soccer scene as Adidas is, but in terms of not, a redheaded stepchild, I guess the terminology we were using coming in today, I don't quite know if I would go that far. Clearly they're not as involved. I don't know if they have anything signature, but I do look like the basicness of the look. I think if there was any iteration of at least the national team apparel, I would say that the jerseys now are probably the cleanest of all of them. Now it sucks that it's on a team that has not really given us any hope, and obviously hopefully they can do something with what they have tonight against Saudi Arabia, but I don't know. I kind of like the look. I mean, obviously, are they as involved? No, but I do like the look.
It's not so much about the look. What I'm saying is that the ability to brand the teams that they're representing. Like Adidas doesn't put their logo on a Juventus jersey like this and with the 3 stripes on it to really promote themselves. I'm saying they're taking Juventus on an outside circle, putting their name and logo on a pair of Sambas, the most sellable shoe in Adidas catalog, and then putting them on Gazelles as well, their second most reputable shoe. Like marketing outside, doing that window shopping outside of an actual season. Nike has the most money in the world. They're the biggest cash cow in sports apparel. But you don't hear anything about USA Soccer until it's relevant, which is every 4 years. And that's why, because don't you think that you should take the time in between? As you mentioned, they have a 10-year partnership with USA Soccer from the men's national team on down. But you couldn't name those other clubs, could you? I know they're on them, but who exactly are they? And we talk about how is this sport going to grow? How are they going to grow? Well, sometimes you have to use an outside source to do that. It's almost like a recruiting firm. You're hiring for a job. You can't do it from the inside, so you have to go third party. Wouldn't it be wise for USA Soccer to be like, hey, listen, help us here. Give us some more notoriety when we're not just playing for a World Cup. And then build that revenue in, allowing the more money and more revenue and everything to build a better foundation to spend on the team itself.
Right.
That's my point. Like
Yeah.
the way, I mean, there's some, I mean, I'm forced to wear Nike because of the Guardians, the Browns, and the Cavs. It's all Nike, NFL, NBA, and MLB.
Mm-hmm.
But just on a standpoint of promotion, USA Soccer gets left in the dust because it's not the NFL. It's not Major League Baseball, because those happen every year, and they happen 6 to 7, 8, 9 months of the year.
Yeah.
Whereas soccer, it's once every 4 years, and we won't start seeing a heavy dose of it until next year.
Right.
I think that's unfair to USA Soccer.
Yeah, and they could afford to certainly focus on some of the things that happen in the interim in those 4 years and really make it more a part of their marketing push. I think a lot of these conversations actually come back to marketing in one way or the other, right? Like, how do we improve it? Well, we have to market it better. Well, how do you market it better? Well, people have to make it a priority when you talk about this massive budget that they have, that they're putting towards pushing all of these things. And again, American-based company, and the focus is on here in America, and that's great, so are there other things that they could do to certainly push it better, like a signature shoe, like promoting a lot of these places, whether it be with more money, or you were talking about going outside, which I think is a good idea. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will say I do like their dedication here to the United States in that 10-year contract, and obviously being the brand in the game from the top down to the bottom. But could they afford to do more? Yeah. Yes. Now, are they, much like a lot of other people who are in the soccer space here in the United States, are they at the same time maybe a little bit more experienced at the other things? Objectively, yes. I mean, I think I even look at some of the people that work in the areas that we do, and like in commentary and podcasting and all these areas. Like, this, I know this. We might be a little bit more well-versed in some of the other sports and other activities that go on here in the United States. Not that we're not informed on soccer. Clearly, we wouldn't have an hour-long show every morning during the week if we weren't. But this isn't necessarily our main thing. And I think you could say the same thing about Nike with soccer, whereas Adidas has had kind of a stronghold, at least certainly overseas. And so that's where there's a little bit of that discrepancy comes in. But yeah, of course they could afford to do more in between, because I think people forget that stuff like Gold Cup and, what am I thinking of? CONCACAF and everything else like that. Even the international friendlies matter. Sorry. We're still like, we would talk about that with the players too, like being able to go out and win those games and make them matter. It's still an important thing. Like, we still want to see you guys go out and perform and make those friendlies mean something. Now, hopefully they can turn it around in the Gold Cup, but it's the same exact thing. Like, do we just not care until the World Cup comes up and then all of a sudden it's all of this promoting? Yeah. Could they afford to do more? Certainly. Yeah, certainly I do. But I just think more it's just a lack of, it might be a lack of focus, because they have so much when it comes to all the other sports here in the United States. And that's when it comes to like money, when it comes to bringing in money for your company. If you're already into the football atmosphere and the basketball atmosphere and you're doing all of these things here in the United States, I'm sure they never have to worry about their pocketbooks. And you just said they're the biggest brand when it comes to sporting apparel. In a lot of ways, it's undeniable. So I don't know if it's necessarily laziness, but it's just maybe they just don't necessarily see the importance of doing too much on that end, exactly to your point.
But going back to the USA Soccer thing, and you saying that they have, where it's with the club teams from the men's national team on down, a 10-year agreement. But you look at which we talked about yesterday, the USA Soccer pyramid of how to advance yourself in what ranks you have to go. So why is it that a Nike, or I should say not Nike, USA Soccer treats MLS as its favorite kid? This is the athlete. This is the D1 caliber. He's getting all the bells and whistles. To hell with the second kid. I'm not even worried about that. But MLS is our guy. So why is MLS Adidas? Don't you think that USA Soccer would be like, hey,
yeah,
could we fix this? Because MLS, who is our breeding ground for our top players in this nation, at least here stateside, but Adidas has them. Don't you think it'd be a wise partnership to say, all right, well, maybe we should take over MLS? Because I'll tell you, the reason that Adidas has MLS is because they can. It's kind of like how Nike has USA Soccer, because they can. They don't do much with it because Adidas knows not making any money off the MLS. They took their money, they slapped the logo on it and said, all right, do your thing. We'll give shoes to Messi, the international player, and we'll give shoes to Inter Miami because it sounds like Inter Milan, which he used to play for.
Close enough, yeah.
So we'll go that route, but that's about it.
Right.
We tried the Kansas City shoes. We didn't sell them. 50% off Adidas.com for those, but that stuns me. I think that was the biggest factor that I had when thinking about this last night is why wouldn't Nike get involved in USA Soccer's top league?
Oh, yeah, it does it. Yeah, right. And I mean, it's one thing to be involved in all the other leagues too, but like we talked about, like you just kind of get buried in how many different leagues there are, and the USL is obviously trying to get to a level of notoriety to where they can kind of start to push the MLS, but they just, like we said the other day, they won't get there. I mean, it's wishful thinking, and I love the comments that I've been seeing on social media about how people kind of wanting to see that, but also at the same time acknowledging that probably won't ever happen. And that's a good thing. It's a good point to get to, because I think once you realize that, you realize exactly what the MLS is. They could certainly afford to do more, but like I said, maybe that's just not their focus right now. You know, maybe I'm not sure, but it would be interesting. I think in a lot of ways too, I think this conversation circles back to developing superstars, because of the influence that Adidas has overseas and the influence that they've had in the game of soccer for the longest time. They're able to kind of, use those superstars internationally speaking to boost their brand. That's really a focus for them. Nike, maybe not nearly as much, and only because, we don't have a ton of, I guess, superstars domestically speaking that we can really market that brand to. Now, someone like Pulisic, he could be someone that, maybe they could use in that situation, but that's another thing too. You need superstars to push your brand. You need to. And we've seen that obviously with Nike for the longest time. I mean, the Got Milk commercials, and there's always ads, at least I used to get the sports magazines. I mean, that used to be something that way back when, that was
Sports
one of my
Illustrated.
favorite. Yeah, Sports Illustrated. It was great. And Nike was always on there. And I remember like Serena Williams was always doing Got Milk ads. Michael Phelps was always doing Got Milk ads. So obviously they've been able to brand themselves to superstars. But again, that raises the question of, does this current iteration of United States men's soccer, or just where we are as a country right now when it comes to the athletes specifically, do they have someone that they can really like market the brand to? And my answer there is like, I don't know. We're not really in the Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, Tim Howard era of United States men's soccer anymore. Like, it is very much a lot of gray area there. And it's because, again, we continue to just throw darts at the dartboard. Even tonight, and we could talk about this a little bit later, but we're talking about rising stars and newcomers and, guys that are just kind of filtering in. There used to be this identity in United States men's soccer that was obviously grit. They were going to get after you. They were going to be on you like peanut butter and jelly from the word go. And we knew who we were getting. We knew who the guys were. We knew who the 11 was. There was no question about it. It's not really the same anymore. So it's tough to find someone specifically on that team to market to. And you're right. I mean, there's probably not a lot of money. But then again, I don't know if money's really necessarily a concern for Nike.
It's not. And I think Nike, over the course of, just go back to 1984 is really when they were put on the map with the Jordans.
Right.
That I consider Nike Jaws in the sense of, yes, the shark, the movie.
Yeah.
You throw chum in the water and they're going to come after it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to tear it apart. Because you look at the NFL, you look at Major League Baseball, you look at the NBA. Nike has not been their sponsor forever and a day. It seems like it because they're so dominant, and then they flood the market with their products. But the NFL went through, they were Reebok, they were Puma, for goodness sakes. And I think they were Adidas at one time. Major League Baseball for the longest time was Majestic for their uniforms. And the NBA was Adidas. So when those places, or I should say those companies, were like, I don't know about this, Nike's like, we'll take it. And they probably got it at a bargain bin price. And now look what they've done with it. They just kind of swoop in, throw the chum in the water, all bloody and nasty, and then just wow, done. And now that's how they've gained with that simple swoosh. And yes, on a marketing standpoint and fashion-wise, yes, they have done a masterful job, because if you see that logo, you know exactly what it is. Exactly.
And they almost needed to be. I mean, Adidas was around before they were. I mean, they got a significant head
Adidas
start
on
Nike.
The 50s.
Yeah, they got a significant head start. So you almost kind of have to be that way. I mean, if you ever have an opportunity to just throw your logo on something, you got to do it, you know. And so I think in a lot of different markets, Nike, to their credit, they took advantage of that, and they needed to in order to make up ground on Adidas. Now, again, as much in the soccer space? No, they haven't. And that's something important to talk about, because, again, anything we can do to try and market the game more in America, I think is important. Any way, shape, or form we can do that. But you're right. They just kind of had to. I felt like it was, in a lot of ways, out of necessity for Nike to be able to do that and beyond that. But, yeah, man, I've we've been getting some interesting comments on talking about American soccer on social and everything, and it's we could all afford to do more. I think at the end of the day we could all afford to do more, but that's exactly why we're on here talking, just trying to figure out what more we could do.
Adidas did make their bed when they started. I mean, being first of all, their headquarters in Germany, so they already had that insight. They're already around the game itself. And they chose it. They said, well, you know, we're soccer. That's what we're going to be. And they've dove into other elements, but they realize this isn't our bag, man. This isn't what we are. This isn't who we are. And that's why Adidas will always be number 2, because they know they don't have to go into another sphere to try to get more money, because they own the world's game. That's not bad. Here in the United States, no, Adidas is a far second to Nike. We all know that. But on the world stage, Adidas has got you beat, man, especially in soccer. For the world's game, it's Adidas. I know Nike's trying, but they will not get there. It's simply because it has resonated so long with soccer players throughout all these years. When you think of soccer boots to buy, it's Copas. It's Predators, it's Sambas, indoor turf, whatever you want to use. I mean, you have your brand. There's an automatic go-to for soccer cleats from Adidas. Nike doesn't have that. They make a comfortable, some nice shoes, but even you said it yourself, even running shoes. Ours is soccer shoes, essentially running shoes, because you got to run around for 90 minutes, but you got to put some spikes on the bottom. So they have to be comfortable.
Right.
I've never worn Nikes. When I was playing soccer, I never wore Nike. It was Adidas. Nike just wasn't a part of the equation. Never even thought about it. So I think that Nike, with the brand power that they have, and we had talked about this a lot of episodes, like right when I first came on, I said we should take a player, just a random player from any team, and just start promoting the hell out of them and see what we can do. And people be like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Build that intrigue. Nike could take any Major League Baseball player. They could take any NBA player, any NFL player, and start promoting them, and people will talk about it. Now, granted, some people, why are they talking about him? Like, these are his stats. These are their stats, whatever. But they could create something out of nothing with the brand power that they have. Couldn't you take someone from USA Soccer and just say, all right, you're going to be our guy?
Yeah. Well,
because we think of Pulisic. Pulisic, honestly, worldwide, Pulisic's not because he plays for USA Soccer. Pulisic is because he's the best player in AC Milan. That's That's where people recognize him from worldwide. Yeah. We know him as the best American player, but worldwide, he's the best player in AC Milan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they have, I mean, part of, in reading up on the matchup tonight with Saudi Arabia and everything around that game, we talk a lot about the newcomers, and one of my favorites right now is Diego Luna. Diego Luna, and I know they say that he's on the cusp, right? He's on the bubble. But this is a kid that I think kind of flies in the face of everything that we've been saying about American soccer. And I need people to realize that there are exceptions to the rule, right? The rule is what we've seen and what we've explained with how money, in a lot of ways in the soccer space, money will take you to where you want to go. Like, people will tell you that you're good enough if the price point is correct. We know this. We've seen that. We've broken it down in a lot of ways. We understand there's a lot of parents in the soccer space that are just sick and tired of having to deal with that mentality in the game. And there are a lot of players like that. I'm not going to say there's not, but in a lot of ways, if you get to that top level, it's not by mistake. But Diego Luna is kind of the opposite of what a lot of these guys are. He came up in a rough neighborhood, in a rough situation. He actually has a really, really great story, ends up making it all the way to the national team, where right now he's not a set thing. He's not a set, he's not set in stone for the World Cup in 2026. But this is a kid that came from nothing, that is trying to make everything out of his career and has had to battle through really the trenches to get to where he's going. This is, a single parent household, I believe. I mean, he's had to fight through a lot. And so that's an inspiring story in a world of American soccer where everybody just thinks they're rich, they're soft, they're coddled, they're all these other things. If you're a company like Nike, and we're talking about superstars that you can market to the general public and talk about stories of perseverance, fighting through, the whole Nike thing, just do it, which I think is a great slogan. They should focus on guys like Diego Luna, who I think, even looking back at the Nations League final, Panama, Canada, those games, and talking about those, and I know it was just JT and I at the moment, you weren't officially on the show quite yet. We talked in length about Diego Luna and how if there was one guy in that collection of players that seemed like he was willing to die on the pitch to make sure that he was in the right spot, doing the right things and giving this team a chance to win, it was Diego Luna. He is someone that I've gravitated to on this team. And when we always ask, the general question of like, do they care? Sometimes I feel like it's too general, and sometimes I feel like we don't give the guys enough credit, because I feel like they do care. But when they fall flat on their face, it's tough to admit that they do, because it just doesn't seem, it's not the same style of ball as what we saw back in the mid 2000s. And I think that's hard for American fans to watch, because even I fell into the YouTube wormhole last night of watching when we beat Spain 2-0 in the Confederations Cup, broke their 35-match win streak, and then we nearly went on to beat Brazil. And we've obviously played well against Portugal. We've gone toe-to-toe with all these biggest countries, but the way we played and the way we approached the game back then was very, very different than what Pochettino's trying to accomplish now, right? It's a very, very different school of thought. We're playing more like Spain in 2025 than certainly what we did back in the mid 2000s. But all of that aside, the lack of results, what we want to see out of this team, whatever, there are individuals that, to your point, I was going to say JT, John Natali, that are marketable. I think Diego Luna is one of them. I think that there are others on the team. I think, when you look at Malik Tillman, I think he has been someone that has also kind of been on that bubble too, but he had a really good performance against Turkey. Obviously didn't result in a win, but he's another young up-and-comer for the United States. He's someone who I think in a lot of ways has kind of exemplified what that team wants to be, which is forward and aggressive and all those other things. Another one with a good story. So yeah, Malik Tillman, Diego Luna, like there are guys there that are making an impact, that are coming up, that could very well be on the forefront of that World Cup team. Now's the time to build the hype. Now's the time to really hone in on who's the best story on that team and just kind of change the mentality around this group, because there are even days where I go back and I watch our clips or I watch our show and I'm like, man, there's just a certain air of negativity. And it's not necessarily because they don't deserve criticism. Like, don't get me wrong, they do in a lot of ways. And I think if there's anybody who deserves it the most, it's Mauricio Pochettino, because that's what you get if you're the head coach, right? You're the man that's on the front of the line. You deserve the criticism. But yeah, absolutely, there are individual players to spotlight. Absolutely, they are. And I think it starts with those two.
Those are two very good ones. And, going back to my point a couple days ago, and you just brought it up, that I said that there's a lot of players on here that don't care. And the reason I say that, Nate, is because of what we discussed yesterday about where the goal for young soccer is not to play at the MLS level. It's to play beyond seas.
Right.
And when you look at the guys who are on this national team, like you look at Malik Tillman, is he a fantastic fixture on that team? Yes. But does he play in the MLS? No, he doesn't. He plays on PSV Eindhoven.
Mm-hmm.
And that mindset, to me, is what takes a lot of these guys out of the element. On the back line, you take a guy like Chris Richards, probably the best defender of the four that played against Trinidad and Tobago, just overall, but he plays for Crystal Palace.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at your forwards, Follerin, he's really good, but he's a Monaco guy. And then, but you take these young guys like Adjimang, and you take Diego Luna. For people who may not know who Diego Luna plays for Salt Lake in MLS,
Mm-hmm.
Adjimang for Charlotte, who the keeper who started against Trinidad and Tobago, Mark Fries, his first international cap. He's a keeper for New York City FC.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you have to do in that sense is take a guy like Diego Luna and take these guys who actually want to, because confidence builds winning, right?
Mm-hmm.
For any player, you can be, just not very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looks like Natali just got disconnected here, so we'll try to get him back in the fold here pretty quickly. Might be an internet thing, might also be a computer power thing, because I don't have mine attached to the power source. I actually just got a new Mac, so I only got 2 slots on the right or left side here. So I got camera, I got audio in, but we'll talk a little bit more about this. But let's quick preview what we got coming up here tonight as we wait for Natali to hop back in with us here shortly, because obviously the United States men's national team taking on Saudi Arabia, second game in the group stage of the Gold Cup. Again, a big building block when it comes to the World Cup. And you guys left a lot of really good comments on social media yesterday. We're going to be covering more of this as we ramp up. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back into the fray, John Natali. What happened? What happened?
You didn't hear that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, my
Something
God,
blow up? What
man.
happened? You were just gone.
A transformer or something. I mean, I felt like Optimus Prime or oh my God.
I thought I kicked you out for a second.
Crap out of me. That cut the whole house down. The whole house should. I'm sorry about that. Oh my God.
Well, you got thunderstorms? Or what you got going on over
No,
there?
I swear to God, a transformer blew.
Really?
That was not, yeah, because it I can see it's cloudy, but that was no thunder, boy. Oh my God.
Well,
Megatron just landed. Oh,
I'm happy to see you're doing okay. You just kind of poof, we're out of there, and I was like, all right, here we
the
go.
whole house almost went poof. Dang. Hello. That woke me up at 9:45 in the morning. Good gravy.
Get a Mac Hub, Nathan. I know. You were also the first one to recommend that I get a podcast light, and that's helped out a little bit because you can actually see my face. It's the first room that I started doing this in was not ideal in that way, but yeah, you're probably right. It works for now. Battery's fine, but we're good to go. But anyways, I believe you were in the middle of making a point, Natali. So
I was going on what you were saying and taking these young guys and kind of reiterating the point, the guys that I don't think care. are the ones that are currently playing international teams. Let's go real quick. We won't touch on too long, but the Donovan Pulisic feud that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Another reason why USA Soccer is in the headlines, but not for the right reason. And someone who came to his defense was his teammate Weston McKennie, which is great, right? But Weston McKennie is also not playing in the Gold Cup. Why?
Yeah,
because he's playing for Juventus in the Club Cup.
Yeah,
he skipped playing for Team USA to play for Juventus in the Club Cup.
Yep.
Oh, so I mean, just that showed so much to me. Do I blame Weston McKennie for that? I don't. I really don't, because I can tell you the way that they played yesterday. I'm talking about Juventus. They want to win this thing. They really do. And I think there's a couple other club teams out there, even though not happy about having to play on the international stage, that really want to win this thing. And I think of three that I have in my head, Juventus really wants to win. So I get that.
Yep.
But taking a guy like Diego Luna, I mentioned Matt Freese, who got the shutout in that opening match against Trinidad and Tobago, the keeper from New York City FC. You can take a guy like Max Arfston, starting defender from the Crew, and take one of these guys for Nike and just go with it. What do you have to lose? What are you going to lose money?
Yeah.
Because it's coming in from every other funnel. Just put it on one of them and let them shine. And give them a platform and create somebody. Mike Trout was Mike Trout for a little bit, but then when Nike got a hold of Mike Trout, the world knew about Mike Trout, right? We all knew he was great here, but he got stuck on a crappy team. He had Ohtani for a cup of coffee, but then he lost that.
Yeah.
But Mike Trout surviving on a bad team because of Nike. And that commercial with Ken Griffey Jr. was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to do that. They brought back a legend who wasn't even Nike anything, Ken Griffey.
Right.
And they took that. They took, hey, we know it's going to make money. Let's throw Mike Trout on there and make a cool commercial. And it worked. And Mike Trout's surviving. Mike Trout's been injury riddled for how many years now? But it's because Nike's still gives him a safety net and he's still out there.
Right.
So they got to do that. They got to do something about that for us. So it's a continual thing, not every 4 years. Just not going to cut it for this team and this society that we live in, that we treat soccer all the way towards the bottom. We like it, but we don't care for it too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be a name out there that we can follow. We have one in every sport. Right. Every sport, there's a name that we can say, oh, look, there's sort of a face of respective league.
Right.
Pulisic's the closest thing.
Mm-hmm. And can you essentially just create someone that people can cling to? Yeah. I mean, that's exactly along the lines of what you're saying. And I think there should be something to be said about, to the frequent flyers or the ones that are able to or do see the point or the importance in being a part of the international team in a moment like this. It's a great idea to be able to spotlight those guys, because I think they're deserving of that spotlight at the same exact time too. I mean, they were willing to put club commitments aside. Some of them are not playing, obviously, in that regard, and that's the reason why they got the call. But you need to give American-based fans someone to cling to, and I think this is why, at least when we circle back on the Messi argument, this is where things start to get murky a little bit, because does he change the line? Does he change the bottom line for the MLS? Yes. Does he make the league in America a part of the international scene just by showing up? Yeah. I mean, you could say that about the international stars and say someone like Mike Trout or another big American name. Let's say Bryce Harper, right? Goes over Aaron Judge goes over and plays in Japan. Automatically, that professional league, which has always already really big. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Japan, I think, has the healthiest baseball culture in the world, if not better than the United States, certainly second to the United States, 1A and
Mexico?
1B.
You wouldn't put Mexico up there?
Mexico's probably up there, dude. Japan, professional baseball in Japan.
No, I know. It's a monster. It's a monster.
But
it
Venezuela, Dominican Republic, they're all very, very healthy in that way. But if you were to put Judge in that league, automatically, I feel like it would bring it to a new level that maybe it hasn't been before. Maybe we'd be talking about it more. So it changes the bottom line for the MLS. But does it change the bottom line for, American player? I'd imagine American soccer players want to see an American in the spotlight, right? Because much like Pulisic, right? And he was someone that people clinged to. They called the kid freaking Captain America, Wonder Boy. Like and it was something that American fans could really rally behind. Now, has he been able to handle that pressure or live up to those expectations? I don't know. No, not really.
Not here. Not here anyway.
Yeah, in Italy, absolutely. And in other places, 100%. But we need to, because of that, that's when you're able to actually market someone here who maybe goes out and gets results on this team and on this club, then yeah. But I think the issue always comes back to is like, okay, so who do we market though, right? Because when you lose 4 straight matches on the international scale, and yeah, they did what they did against Trinidad and Tobago, but you need to instill more hope in us by the way that you play in order for any of these big time companies or corporations to be like, let's hone in on this guy. Let's hone in on this player. Let's hone in on this. You have to go out and produce. And I think Pulisic early in his career, with the winning streak they had over Mexico, with the 3 straight Nations League championships that they had, with all of these things that they were able to do earlier on, now obviously taking out when he first was really early on in the scene and they lost to Trinidad and Tobago and couldn't get to the World Cup, that was a black eye. But you felt like a little bit after that, even early in the Berhalter era, that they were generating some mo, and there was an opportunity to really push someone like a Christian Pulisic. Now, with where we are with Mauricio Pochettino and Pulisic obviously not playing with the team and trying to, take care of other things, and Weston McKennie and Gio Reyna not being involved in all of these different players, I can understand the hesitancy to go, okay, it'd be nice to be gung-ho about promoting this player or that player, but who do we really latch in on? Diego Reyna is, I think, a good story. That's why I said I think he should be top of mind if there's going to be one player that we push, because we need to change the mentality around American soccer players. That's the problem in my mind. I personally think this, John Natali, that it's not that they're not talented. It's not that they're not good. I think we're developing more players. I think we have more players playing overseas now than ever before. The issue is that there is a clear-cut bias against American players in the game of soccer. And they deal with this all the time overseas. You earn your spot, then you get into the offseason, and all of a sudden you're right back down here and you're battling for the same exact thing as you were the year before. And it's mostly because you come from the United States. Whether people want to admit this or not, they are fighting an uphill battle constantly wherever they are. And that puts more pressure on their shoulders. I realize that, when we talk about maybe some of them are mentally soft, they bend to that, but there is 100% a bias against the American-based player, and it's because of people look at our country and they think of pay to play. That's the first thing they think of. So a lot of this is, and it's why it's important. It's why it's important that we're talking about this, and why it's important that I think someone like Nike latches onto a Diego Luna, because we have to get that type of story out there. We got to get a documentary. We got to show people that there are exceptions to the rule in the U.S., and someone like Diego Luna is exactly that, fighting through what he did and the crap that he went through to get to that level. That's why I think it's important. It's changing the mentality around the soccer players here in the U.S. because they're not all from the same situation, right? And I know we like to paint with this broad stroke, and it makes life easier for people to understand, but that's where it all starts in my mind.
I think now, and that's a great point. And when you talk about gravitating towards the American player, I think that's why we always gravitate back to 94. We go into those early 2000s, the Clint Dempseys, the Landon Donovans, Tim Howards. Then you go back before that, Kobe Jones, Alexi Lawless, Tony Miola. You kind of knew those names. But the difference between those teams, Nate, and the teams now is those guys played together. We call them ragtag, right?
Yeah.
Well, because they played together. They played together here. Only a few. Remember, Alexi Lawless was the first player to go to Serie A. The first American-born player to go to Serie A. Think about that. Yeah. And now every goal of every young soccer player is to play somewhere overseas or in South Africa or South America on an international team. It's not to play here. So those guys were all playing together throughout the year. Here, they don't do that.
Right.
You're just grabbing people left and right. The MLS guys have the most continuity, but they're playing against each other in a league that is far less superior to the ones that a guy like Pulisic, a guy like Tillman, a guy like Chris Richards, where they're all playing the exceptional class. And then when they come here, it's almost, I feel that those guys get frustrated. Have you ever, doing some of the games that we do on the National Soccer Network, some of those NPSL games or even USL2 for that matter, when you see the guys who are superior talent and sometimes they're foreign-born players, you can see their frustration with their teammates. They're masterfully skilled with the ball. They want to control the ball, and then they'll pass it, and it's a heavy touch, or they'll just play it the wrong way. They won't look vertically. They won't look with their peripheral vision, and you can see the frustration. Do you get a sense of that with USA Soccer, that there's guys on that team that can really play? AC, Christian Pulisic, and some of those other names I mentioned, and then playing with guys of MLS caliber.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Come on, man,
let's
go."
Yeah, well,
I'm playing with the best of the best overseas, and now I've got this.
Yeah, it highlights the importance of them playing together. It highlights the importance of them making it a priority to be a part of that team. That's really what it all boils down to. And I think that's an interesting point. And I think we should cover that tomorrow. I think we should talk about that, because it's when you look at, let's say hockey, and I know that these are different worlds. Okay. I'm not comparing the sports. It's important for people to keep this in mind. I know that two different worlds, hockey and soccer, right? But all of those guys play in the NHL. They all play together, right? Not unless they don't send the best of the best, then maybe you have a mix of AHL and maybe some other guys, but they all play in the same league. You can say the same thing about baseball. They're all in Major League Baseball. They're all together.
162 times a year, 82 times respectively.
Exactly. Not the same thing in soccer, but this again goes back to the frustration that we have of when you have an opportunity to play on that team. When we talk about sending the best of the best, or what your best 11 is, you should know who your 11 is now. And the reason being is because if those guys spend more and more time together, it will only make them stronger. It will only make them better. I mean, you look at these international teams, especially in basketball. They all grew up playing together from the time they were this big. They understand each other's tendencies. They understand what they like to do. They understand their style, their flow, what works for them. That's why it matters to us. And that's why it all comes back to like how much of a priority is winning at that level in the United States. That's where all these lines get blurred, because to guys like you and me, it means a lot, because it's hard for me to really, I like watching international soccer. I'm going with you to Soldier Field to watch it. I mean, in July, it's going to be a great experience. Awesome. But I'm here, man. My feet are in the United States. So I want to see the guys in the red, white, and blue do well. And so, but I think it gets confusing when you see how much diversity there is.
So I want to leave you with this, Nate, something to chew on for tomorrow. And we'll get back to what we were just talking about that camaraderie that you need, the chemistry, the continuity that you need to succeed. Is when putting together a roster, who do you think it's more difficult for? A team like Italy, a team like Germany, a team like Brazil, where you have to be like, oh man, I got to leave someone off this roster? Or is it harder for USA to be like, man, who are we going to put on this roster? Like we got to find some bodies. Yeah. Who do you think it's harder for? The elite teams or Team USA, who's probably looking under stones to find out, is there someone under here that we can grab? I'll let you chew on that for the evening.
Yeah, I would say probably the United States in that situation, but
let's not talk about now because we got to wrap it up. That's all
right.
I want you to think about. So why don't you cut that music?
Okay, all right. So that's been episode 104. Here we go. Oh, here we go. I'm going to get the process down here today.
Came in too early.
That's been episode 104 of Inside the Game. Nate Wengler, John Natale, that way. Great conversation as always. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Episode 105 coming up tomorrow. Also have live reactions from the United States taking on Saudi Arabia here tonight. Hopefully they can make it straight in the Gold Cup.
And a big announcement. Big announcement tomorrow about Monday.
Also coming up tomorrow. Until we see you guys then. So long, everybody.